So on that demo intro that you just heard me playing, the G minor pentatonic scale or the G blues scale, and I was playing across a track that you heard me playing those long sustained lines over as well, okay? And you could really hear the difference between playing those short phrases with lots of space as opposed to those long phrases that were just hanging out. Totally different atmospheric feel, okay? Now you guys that were paying attention too probably realized this track I used at the beginning of the course to use air and space as well. But what I did was I placed my phrases in between where the riffs occurred, okay? We had those 2-beat riffs that I was playing around at the beginning of the course. And this time, if you were paying attention, probably heard that I placed my lines, my little solo lines, right on where those licks occurred. And the reason I did that was because I wanted the chords to hang out, and I wanted to place my lick where my phrase could resolve back to that G chord at the beginning of the chord sequence, if you like, which is pretty much what the riff is doing. So if the riff is playing this, going back to my G chord, okay, what I'm basically doing is phrasing where that riff occurs, which is resolving nicely back to that first chord of the G. So what I'm basically doing is phrasing into the first bar, okay? So almost playing like the last 2 beats going into bar 1, if that makes sense. So what we'll do is we'll pull up the track so we can just hear this, and I'll kind of talk through it as well so you understand why I did what I did. It's all about the resolution points, phrasing short lines to leave lots of space. And it's almost like I'm phrasing as if there were a vocal there. So I'm phrasing in between where maybe a vocal line would sit. All right? It's just a very different approach. And I think what we'll do as well, we'll do that first, and then maybe we'll reverse it so you hear the difference of how those two things sound. I'll play in between the riff, and then I'll play over the riff. And then, of course, we'll do some of those long sustain lines as well, so you can really hear the difference. Your phrasing and your approach and where you place your notes makes such a huge difference to the underlying harmony and the groove and the track. All right, so let's pull that up. I'll just show you where playing over the riff, how that feels and how that resolution feels with it. So phrasing into the downbeat of 1. You can hear that going squarely on the downbeat. Here we go. Leaves tons of space. Okay, just one more. Okay, so it's really leaving tons of space where the chords are playing. Okay, so I'm actually going over where the riff is. Try that, okay? You're going to feel it's very different from playing in between. So now what we'll do is we'll reverse that. I'll play in between the lines, give you a reference point. Okay, so we'll pull up the track again, and I'm going to play in between those lick phrases. Do the reverse. Now, to me, playing over the riff sounds a little sexier, a bit more groovy, if you like. You know, a bit more, it's got a bit more sauce on it than playing in between the lines. all right? And I really dig that. So experiment, you know, try placing it over the riff, in between the riff, sustaining your lines, all right? So what we're going to do now, we're going to pull up the track, and I'm going to mix all three elements, all right? I'm going to play the long sustain lines over the riff and in between the riff, and really just listen to how that affects the underlying harmony. So your phrasing and your approach can really change what's going on underneath as well, okay? So let's do that. I'll start with the long sustained lines, okay? Here we go. Okay, so you really hear the power of changing where you place your phrases. Nothing complex about what I did, but my intent and my intention of where I placed those ideas and what I did with them was very powerful too. Now, don't forget also the sounds that you use, the approach, your right-hand approach, whether that's picking the notes, you know, whether you're bending into things or not, is going to make a huge difference too. So think about the atmospheric feel that all of these elements can have on the underlying music as well. Great, so pull up the track. Now it's time for you to dig into this. Maybe try all three approaches now, mix them up, okay, and see which ones work best for you and your playing and your phrasing.